Hello again, all you rootin' tootin' nightmare havers. This is Erico Blueberry. It's an unassuming Destiny podcast. My name is chillybin.
It's me, the waking nightmare, Meckii.
A waking nightmare by any other name smells as
Pundit.
scary. I didn't know where I was going with that. There's about three different quotes competing for what came out of my mouth, and then I just kind of lost the train of thought.
Because I live in a bushfire prone area.
Yeah. And you're often in vans when fires occur.
Yeah, all the time. RVs, all the time. Yeah, but being 6, I had no fucking clue what was happening. Didn't really understand what was going on. And spiraled. I might have had my first existential crisis at 6.
Oh no. Wow.
Yeah, like corner of the van panic attack.
Jesus.
Like, mine was a fun game. I considered death at 6 years old.
I developed ennui at the age of 6.
I was prepared to meet God.
Or call him dad. I'm not sure.
6-year-old me in the corner, like...
Just chain smoking. Just trying to grasp the nature of reality.
I'm ready to meet my maker. Satan.
Yeah. Yes. Anyway, this is supposed to be an episode, a podcast about Destiny, the video game.
Same. Excuse, cult of personality. Let's fucking lean in.
Yes. We missed it last week because, what was it? You got held back at work after hours. I then had a very busy weekend because I had one of my best friend's weddings and a bunch of stuff to kind of get ready for that. There's that green flash in your video happening again. We're just going to leave it.
It didn't happen on my screen.
Okay, well,
it's only happening on yours.
Happened on my end. Windows took an update today. I'm blaming that. So sorry, that might happen at random points throughout the video. But anyway, we've got a couple of weeks to kind of catch up on. Again, light spoiler warnings. We'll talk about some post-story stuff if you haven't got to that yet. And you care about seeing it fresh, and there's some cool moments in there that I would suggest you do, especially if you're into a bit of the old lore. Now's your spoiler warning. There'll be a bit of that. I'm not going to bother with timestamps. I didn't last time either, of cut to this point and it's fine. Because also, I remember last episode, I said the spoiler warning thing, and then immediately after that, we talked about a non-spoiler thing before getting to the spoiler thing.
It was never spoiler free. If we weren't talking about spoilers, we were talking about something fucking cursed. So it was it wasn't safe at any point.
Yeah. Keep yourself safe when consuming Erico Blueberry. That's all I can say. But anyway, let's see. Right after finishing the story, we get presented with a couple of quests. One being unfinished business, which is basically setting up for Rohan's memorial and going through a bunch of stuff. And the other one was the restoring the Hall of Heroes quest line, which are related but separate. I think the unfinished business one was the first one I finished because it was relatively quick, and it's how you get that rhythmic void machine gun deterministic chaos. So I was like, I'm gonna get to that first. Because also, the one about restoring the Hall of Heroes, had a bunch of, go here and kill, 100 Vex or whatever. It was, one of those. It had, 4 of those sort of steps. Whereas, yeah, the other one was not quite as involved. But I don't remember much about the quest line other than the last part of it and then that final cutscene. But it was pretty fucking neat. We do the memorial. Nimbus kind of runs out, and then there's that's where the unfinished business quest line comes from. So he's like, I gotta go do some other stuff. But we end up going into the Black Garden and basically running Garden of Salvation backwards.
Yeah.
We load in at it's basically the point right before you jump down into the final boss arena. We load in there and have to like work our way back to the starting point of the raid. They've thankfully added a couple of extra like pieces for us to platform onto and jump up, because it used to be you used to be able to only get up there with like not a thunder crash, but like really weird mobility tricks. Which we had to do a few times for doing divinity puzzles after checkpoints and things like that. But yeah, so we run through there, we get the gun, and then I think we get the gun like in the Black Garden, right?
Yeah.
And then you just
up
like
the top where it's
down.
Up the top where it's like the sprawling field of like the pink and purple flowers, the really pretty bit.
That's it.
You run into Nimbus and it's sitting on the ground and he's like, this is Cloud Strider tech, but like Rohan didn't really use guns, so I don't understand.
And he just like gives it to us.
You can have this. Yeah. I don't use it. It's a big fucking gun.
It is a big fucking gun. It's like xenophage levels of reload speed. But yeah, it's pretty fucking sick. Like, what is it? Every fourth bullet weakens targets.
I think
so.
And
then every 16th is a volatile shot. And it's got 48 rounds in the mags in the magazine. Mag singular. So if you do the math, you get what is it? It's like weaken every 4. So weaken, volatile. And that loop happens 3 times before you need to reload. But it only happens holding the trigger down. So if you're doing, for example, boss damage in a raid, which we'll get to later, it's pretty fucking handy. And it also just has like a really nice sound to it.
I just went to look it up to confirm what the intrinsic perk was, and all I typed in was deterministic chaos, and now I'm having a crisis.
Oh, no, don't look at that. Chaos theory.
Yeah. Void damage, heavy metal while holding down the trigger. Every 4th bullet becomes a heavy projectile that weakens targets on impact. Vexadecimal, while holding down the trigger, every 4th heavy metal projectile also makes targets volatile on impact.
Yeah.
Polygonal rifling.
That's all. The rest of it's all just
standard. Ricochet and composite stock. Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty dope. I mean, I love a heavy machine gun. You and I are both big Xenophage fans, and this one I think is up there for me. It feels like a Void Xenophage because like it does decent damage, but also those
just
like
a bit quicker.
Weakening and volatile mean that you do more damage with the damage you're already doing, if that makes sense. And also it can help your allies do more damage. Again, in like a raid scenario or a nightfall or something like that.
Interesting.
So yeah, we get that gun and then we kind of like run out the rest of the raid environment back to the starting location, except there's a whole bunch of extra Vex milk and like bullshit around, and there's like a giant Hydra, classic like big Vex stuff. And I think this is the quest line where they start introducing the idea that the way that we're going to understand the Veil is by exploring some shit the Vex were up to, which is the fact that they were basically like trying to make a copy of it, and that is somewhere inside the Vex network. I think it was this quest line where they start talking about that, because we start doing a whole bunch of weird Vex shit, and they talk about the Black Garden as like the closest kind of analog to the Traveler or something like that. It's a bit fuzzy for me because there's a lot of proper nouns being thrown around, but
I love the words.
Yeah, a lot of big words. Very cool gun.
I just want to loop back on that for a second because I didn't realize what the perks were called. I was like, that's funny. Heavy metal.
Yeah, you know what Vexadecimal is a pun on, right?
Hexadecimal.
Yeah, which is a base 16 number system.
Yeah, but also traditionally heavy metal is played in 4/4.
Yep.
I didn't realize that. Yeah. I thought that was I was like, oh, heavy metal, that's fun.
Yeah.
Heavy metal is typically played in a 4/4.
Yep.
And then I was like, Vexadecimal, is that hexadecimal?
Yes,
and then I just triple checked and I was like, that's fun and neat and cool. Good job, Bungle.
Yeah. It's also not the only pun-based weapon name in the past 2 weeks, and we'll get to that later with the exotic mission that came out as well. But the last part of that quest line, unfinished business, is we get the gun, we finish the thing, we go back to talk to Nimbus, and then there's this like incredibly sweet cutscene at the end of this thing where it's kind of like it's Osiris talking about Sagira and relating that to the relationship of Nimbus to Rohan. Basically just Osiris saying like Sagira saved me, was like this guiding light, this guiding force for him, and just like it's the first time we've really heard him talk about Sagira since Sagira was killed and blown up, whatever. I don't know what is the right verb here, but then it's just like the slow panning shot across the Hall of Heroes until I believe it's actually behind Rohan's
It is, yeah.
statue thing in the hall. Is like this little pedestal with Sagira's broken shell on it, and it just fades to black. And there was always this moment in the back of my head, because we went and found Sagira's shell during the Witch Queen campaign, right? It was like deep inside the throne world somewhere. And there was always that thing in the back of my mind of like, are they going to try and resurrect Sagira in some way or bring Sagira back? And this is very much them going, no, Osiris is just a guy with one life now. Which makes...
He's accepted it.
Yeah, but it makes some of his decisions and actions throughout the Lightfall campaign that much more interesting. Because he's just like, I don't give a fuck. But also maybe why he is like getting involved with the Cloudstriders so much, because they're in the same situation. So it's like this, like, I don't know, 30-second cutscene of Osiris just kind of talking in this way, and then that's it, and you just have to sit there and be a little bit sad.
It definitely gave me a lump in my throat.
Yeah.
Not quite tears, because I think it was that little bit too short, but like I definitely got that like about to cry, like lump in the back of the throat. I was like, oh, Jesus. I think that's also a bit of a message from Bungie to be like, hey, community, can we drop that now? Like a bit of them being like, yep, we can drop that now.
Yeah. So yeah, unfinished business. We finished it, I guess.
More now, I think.
Yeah.
More stuff might come up.
Yes. Yeah. Then, what was the other one? The Restoring the Hall of Heroes, which is where we meet the Archivist in the Hall of Heroes.
They're fun.
They are. I like their energy. They're kind of like a librarian who is like kind of a little bit done with shit, but also really loves their job.
Yeah.
But yeah, some of those, like, you go through and you restore the 4 of them. There's like 5 total. You restore the 2 on the ends, and then the 1 in the middle is kind of like the last one, and that's where you get... It's another weapon. Which weapon is it?
I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
I was underleveled.
Okay.
And I was trying to solo it underleveled.
It's the one where you get the heavy stasis glaive.
Oh,
it's
okay.
That quest line. Which that thing is goofy. I don't know if I will ever use a heavy glaive, but I tried it out when I first got it, and the big like ball of like ice that it shoots out is very fun. Like, it just kind of slowly drifts and just freezes everything that it goes past. It's pretty funny. But yeah, it's a good little quest line. Like, each of the memorials is kind of different in what it gets you to do, and the story's a little bit different. They kind of lead into each other of like, oh, this like voice line is kind of talking about the next person that you go and restore. It's pretty good. The main thing that kind of stuck out to me, spoilers for you, I guess, is that there's a little, like when quests finish, you either get voice line or you get just like a wall of text. Or sometimes you get both. But the Archivist has like this big dump of text, and in it is this thing that says, urgent, Saturn 6 contains vital information, enemy of witness on Titan. If still living, preservation paramount, do not waste time. So I think we might be returning to Titan soon. The fact that enemy of Witness on Titan, I think we're gonna fucking need that, whatever it is.
Is that? Am I
I
thinking
don't
of
know
the
what it would be.
wrong planet?
Titan was the one where like we're on these like oil rigs and there's like giant waves underneath it.
Yeah, but there's a piece of lore and some of the exotic mission stuff tied into it this week.
Mm-hmm.
Was Ashimir on Titan?
No, Io.
Okay.
But yeah, there was a mention of Titan somewhere else, I think, in the last week. And I can't remember where.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where my brain starts like doing speculative loops and thinking, well, we know the next season is called Season of the Deep. Titan has giant waves. Maybe they're being literal and saying we're going to go under the water on Titan. Maybe there's something under there. Who knows?
But isn't also the deep is also
the deep is the reference is like what we call the darkness when we talk about a voice from the deep, and that's more related to the story of the Hive.
Is it fucking Sav?
It could be.
Are we about to like, you know how they dumped Megatron's body in the ocean and then he came back in the next Transformers movie?
Well, this is the thing, right? At the end of the Witch Queen campaign, we kept the body. And
yeah, and then Ikora was like, I'm going to take care of this, don't worry.
Savathun's ghost still is out there, right?
Umaru.
Daddy Umaru.
I keep calling him Umamu.
So, like, yeah, there is, I guess, still a chance that Savathun comes back.
We fucking Osama bin Laden Savathun's body.
We're keeping this just as insurance. But yeah, and this kind of like this mention of Titan and like all these little details getting sprinkled in kind of ties back to the TWAB that came out at the end of week 1, which I think goes.
I just realized.
Yes.
9 fucking
9.
Yeah, you know the 9?
Yes.
They talk about Leviathans on Titan or Europa.
Yeah. Deep. Darkness, Leviathans, maybe. Yeah.
I was like, I knew there's an important piece of obscure lore about Titan, and then I got it confused with Ashimir, and then I was like closing out of tabs, and I saw the symbol of the 9 that was unrelated, and I was like, I had like a
yeah
brain blast.
But yeah, like I was saying, the TWAB that came out at the end of the first week we had with Lightfall was under this heading, The Story Has Just Begun, which I think, to me, goes some way to explaining what I felt they were doing with the story in Lightfall's campaign, which is, it's essentially the second part of a trilogy, right? They're setting up a lot of questions and not really answering a lot of them. If you look at just the Lightfall story, the campaign itself, if you try to take that as a contained thing, you will come out of it with a lot of questions, because what we're seeing is that they are dropping details and quests that are coming out after that are coming out a week, maybe 2 weeks after, or like the seasonal story. And to me, it feels like them doubling down on their strengthened seasonal storytelling that we've seen develop over the last couple of years. Like, don't get me wrong, they definitely could have put a little bit more explanation in the Lightfall campaign itself, especially for new players. But for those of us that, you know, have been with the game for a while now, like, this is just it's different, right? Like, it's not the way we've seen them do campaigns before, especially with the way Witch Queen was like so well self-contained and just generally excellent. This is the weird middle part of a trilogy where you come out of it feeling a bit odd, right? Like, if you think about Star Wars, the end of the second movie, you get the Darth Vader reveal, and then you just have to wait for the next movie to come out. Like, that sucks. But that's what it is. When you know that the next one is like the end of the storyline, you can do stuff like that, right?
It's definitely setting up the cards so that next expansion we can see which one's full.
Yeah.
It's like just because they're setting something up doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna end next expansion. It could end next season. It could end this season, but they're definitely setting pins up.
Yeah.
Like,
but yeah, they like went as far as saying, I'm just reading it now. As the events of Season of Defiance get into full swing, know that it's just the beginning of the next year of storytelling that will connect the events of Lightfall and the final shape. They're talking about learning more about the Witness's origins, its objective, and the ways we can thwart it and its disciples throughout Season of the Deep, as well as Seasons 22 and 23 this year. So they're putting the sign up that says, hey, settle down about the story. There is more coming every week. And yes, it's different and new and, an evolution of their process in the last 2 years, but you gotta give it time before you come out swinging at them a little bit, I think.
I
think they didn't really like set that expectation ahead of time, to be perfectly fair. But that was kind of my natural assumption based on the way seasonal stuff has gone the last couple of years of like, I'm sure we're going to get the rest of the pieces that weren't in the campaign story.
Yeah, and that's it's that fine balance, isn't it, of fire everything off too quickly, next few seasons are, and then everyone complains that there's nothing to do in the seasons and nothing's happening, like we've had with past seasons, or past expansions, like very old expansions at this point, or trickle it out and then people are complaining it's not happening fast enough.
And the thing is, if you stop looking at Twitter and Reddit, it doesn't seem so bad. It's from my observation. The people that are the loudest about this are the people that play the game the most and are burning through all of the content available to them on like day 1 or 2 of a week or a season. And it's like, you're doing this to yourself at a certain point. Like, just take some time, enjoy what's given to you, and maybe do something else with your time, like we always say. Don't get me wrong, I played a lot of the game in the last, since Lightfall came out. And I will continue to do so because there's plenty to do. But I'm not destroying my enjoyment of the game about it. Like, I've been bashing my head against Lost Sectors trying to get to Guardian rank 7, and at a certain point I'm like, no, this rotation of the Lost Sectors right now doesn't, I'm not at the right power level, and the combination of things I need to use is not my playstyle, so I'm just going to wait until it's easier. Like, I don't want to just sit there for 2 hours and grind the same Lost Sector to try and get there as fast as possible. That just doesn't sound fun to me. Like, old me might have done that, but at the moment I'm like, I know I'll get there. Like, it'll be fine.
That was me with the Glaive exotic mission, where I was trying to solo it and I was just beating my head against a wall. And then unfortunately I got to almost the end and I got weaseled.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm going to turn the game off now. Just because I was like, I don't want to get shit. Like, that's out of everyone's control.
Yeah.
It's not an error that was caused by anyone. It just happens.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm grumpy. I'm not having a great time. I'm going to watch a movie.
Yeah. That's it. Maybe.
What's new on Amazon Prime?
Hey, if you're me, the Diablo 4 beta is this weekend. If you've like actually pre-ordered it, or there's an open beta next weekend, I'm going to be doing that a whole bunch. I had a wedding to go to, like, do other things. Don't play Destiny. No, like, do, but also don't sometimes.
Yeah, it's one of those things. There's
people being weird.
Can't win them all.
People being weird on the internet about a video game. Settle down.
Video. We have this conversation every month, I feel.
Every episode or two, honestly.
It's a fucking video game. Yeah. Calm the fuck down.
It's a dumb space magic shooty video game.
What was that? The old Tyler the Creator tweet? Where he's like, how y'all getting cyberbullied? Just log off. but Destiny.
Yeah.
Just log off.
Stop opening yourself up to this. Just go away. You don't have to have a take. You don't have to do this to yourself. You are choosing to.
Just log off.
Yeah. All right. Let's turn it back around.
Some funny stuff out of Twitter that you shared.
What? I've lost the notes. There it is.
I like Lightfall because initially it gives the impression the witness doesn't care for its disciples. But then you rewatch the opening scene and notice the statue of Nezarec and you're like, oh, okay, he just hates Callus then.
Yeah. Yeah, I've yet to kind of formulate an opinion about why Callus was chosen to be a disciple of the witness.
Means to an end, maybe.
I guess, like... I feel like I need to go read a bunch of lore about like what the Shadow Legion's deal is, like how, whether or not like that's what the witness was after more than Callus himself.
Maybe that was it. Maybe the witness just they knew, they needed numbers.
Actually, to like confirm that, I've seen so many references in game and from Bungie where they refer to witness as it.
We don't know what this identifies as, so it for now. Just on that note, never call a trans person it because you don't know their pronouns. Thank you.
If they tell you their pronouns are it or include it, then go for your life.
But the witness maybe they just needed numbers. They knew they needed numbers and they knew they needed sheer force and disposability, and Callus could offer that.
Yeah, because it seems like the way that they were used was to break into that containment facility to get the veil. Or to get access to the veil for whatever means.
Callus had the tools, the means, and the numbers to do so, so it might not even...
Callus had the attitude, like the ferocity, the tenacity to just like fucking punch that wall until it comes down. Metaphorically and literally.
So it might just be a matter of it wasn't necessarily Callus.
Yeah.
Like the other disciples. Maybe they didn't necessarily see Callus, like something in Callus. They just saw Callus as a tool.
Yeah.
Because they do treat Callus very
like
disposably. And like shit, but like at the end of the day, disposable.
Yeah.
They don't seem to lament about losing Callus like they did Sav and Nazarek. Like there is no bitterness there from the witness. It's just, whoop, that happened.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the witness got what it wanted, so.
Yeah.
Callus was a means to an end.
I think so.
But I just found that so funny. Just like, oh, the witness doesn't care about any, oh, no, it's just Callus.
Yeah.
Fuck Callus.
Yeah, like Rolk, Nezarec, as we'll get to. Just like, yes, this all makes sense. And then Callus walks in with these like fucking purple pyramid shoulder
fucking
pads.
Teapots on his shoulders.
Just coming in like a 1980s business power suit executive, just like, what's up? I'm here to make some deals. Here's my army.
Someone on Twitter pointed out that Callus looks like a bad AI-generated Kingdom Hearts boss, and now I can't unsee it. Huh. He's got Kingdom Hearts boss energy.
I've never played a Kingdom Hearts game, and I kind of get that.
But it's just the fucking like teapot shoulders.
Yeah.
What in the Tetsuo Nomura is this shit?
Yeah, what fucking fell out of Disneyland onto this giant man?
Alice in Wonderland looking ass.
That's all right. We dealt with him. We had a little cinematic VDoc, and I think since then we've had like an art VDoc as well drop.
Yeah.
Which I haven't watched yet. But again, continuing that trend of like, they clearly shot all these on the same day, but they're like drip feeding them out with like little different focuses, and the cinematic one is very sick.
Also, acknowledging teams that often get forgotten. Like the design teams, the art teams, the concept teams.
Yeah.
The music, like even though music is a huge part of Destiny, it's like it's all about gameplay and that kind of stuff. You don't often.
The thing I like about the cinematic one is they kind of show the process of like do the mocap, get the basic kind of skeleton together, then layer stuff on top of it.
They introduced new stuff they'd never done before. They actually shot stunts this time, which they haven't mocapped in the past.
Yeah, but the thing I like about the way that they told that story is they basically explicitly said, people think you do the mocap and that's just what we put in the game. No, actually, it's a fuck ton of work in between, and here's what that looks like. And they show like all these different shots of like the basic rig, They show like the actual mocap, then they show what the basic output of that is, then they show it with like a little bit of a part, like the initial pass applied to it, and then like here it is with all the lighting and shit applied to it as well. It's like, oh, that's the cutscene, and that takes a ton of work actually, including physical stunts and just like people moving about a space, and that's kind of where it all comes from.
So cool.
Yeah.
Especially when they show you how they shot the Guardian hanging off the side of the jump ship. And what it was is they had a stuntman on a ladder so that it looked organic the way that they were like moving. And like, I thought that was really cool.
Watching that man traverse that ladder while hanging from it, I was like, yeah, you are making this look way too easy, my guy. Please stop.
Too strong. Yeah. Stop it.
Just like hanging there. It's like, oh yeah, I'll just make this move now and get the other arm up there. It's like, no, I would.
And then the Cloud Strider's stuntman just flipping and they've got like a big board to act like the weapon slash skateboard.
Just very
and they're
cool.
just rolling around with it and flipping it. I'm like, ugh.
Very cool stuff.
So cool. So cool.
Yeah. I do need to go and check out that art one. I've also seen like, probably because of that in the last few days, like ArtStation stuff getting posted to Twitter and like seeing just Nezarec character models and like a 3D model of what the Veil in game actually is, and it's like this weird mushroom looking thing. There's been like a good 3 or 4 of those things floating around.
A bulb.
Yeah, like a plant bulb.
Like a lily bulb, or like an onion bulb.
Yeah, so they're like we said, putting a spotlight on different groups. Like they seem to rotate who actually gets shown off in the like big VDoc that they put out, the like 15 to 20 minute showcase joint. But these are nice. It's like, here's 6 minutes about this very specific aspect of this video game. Because I think stuff like that goes a long way to telling people to shut the fuck up about how game dev works. It's like, you don't know how much work actually goes into this game. It's not as simple as like, hey, just make the puddles better, fucking Spider-Man. No, actually.
I think it does a lot for like people who want to get into the industry too.
Yeah.
Like seeing the people and hearing, like, especially a lot of the people who are like, I started as a fan artist.
Yeah.
I started as someone who used to shoot the shit with DMG frequently. Yeah. I started as a Twitch streamer. Like, hearing those stories is very inspirational too.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Now, trying to decide where to go next. The next big thing, like chronologically, was the raid.
Yeah. But we had a bit of story in between.
We did have a bit of story, and I did miss that. Seasonal story-wise, last week, the only thing I thought worth mentioning or noting, it was fine. It was fun. The voice line as you load into the like Ascendant plane side of that mission is Devrim and Amanda like talking about hanging out essentially, but like I think it's the first time in game we've heard Devrim refer to his partner by name.
Yeah.
Right? He's saying Mark, like with a C, which is very cool.
Cock.
Fuck.
I had to do the meme.
Damn it. But yeah, like I think the line is something like Devon mentions he'll bring Mark and they'll make it a double date, which made me think, who is Amanda bringing? Better not be Crow. We'll hear more about that relationship in this week's story. But yeah, it was just a very sweet, like these little bits of like dialogue that we're getting in the seasonal story missions are very cute, and it's all about like just people's relationships with one another and characters we haven't heard from much for a while.
Also, like, I love Devrim and Amanda and Misrax's banter because it's all very optimistic. It's like, oh yeah, when we get this all sorted, when this all calms down, we'll all hang out. Like, it'll be fine. We'll be back on the farm. Like,
picnic.
Yeah, like it's all very optimistic.
Yeah,
and I really like that. It's the ones that don't get rezzed who are like, yeah, we're gonna be fine.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, that is a very human condition to like hold that optimism despite everything, and just like have this ideal situation to hang on to get you through.
Mara and all the Guardians are like, oh,
fucking shit's bad, homie. But don't think about that.
Y'all.
The Guardians always figure it out, right?
Yeah, like y'all points at the traveler.
Traveler's got a gaping triangular hole in its face.
Joel missed the bit where he cut a big triangle and just disappeared. We don't know what that is or where it goes.
I think created a wormhole. I've seen the phrase Einstein-Rosen bridge thrown around a lot in the last 2 weeks, and that is a legitimate physics term for a wormhole. Or a type of wormhole.
We don't know what the fuck it is and what the fuck it just opened and where the fuck it went. Y'all are talking about tea?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go have some tea.
So it's the immortal ones who are like, fuck, this is it. We're doomed. But then the Cloud Striders and like all the humans are like, we can sort this out. It's fine.
Yeah, who cares? I'm
really good at flying my ship.
Yeah, I'm
good.
gonna ride my flying skateboard away from here.
Yeah.
Get me away from this.
And Amanda's like, I'm just real good at it. I'm a really good pilot.
Yeah.
I'll just fly a little bit, shoot some things, and be good.
Which is, okay, yeah, ties into this week's story, which we get a little, like, kind of cutscene about Amanda and her origin, and that's very nice. It started out dark, kind of the like, orphan of a war type beat. But then she's like, hey, then I found a fucking spaceship and I just got hella good at it. Which is, you know, obviously what we know her for is ships and ship things.
Yeah, just her as a little girl seeing the jump ships and being like, that is the coolest shit. When I get to the last city, I'm going to learn how to fly.
Yeah.
But then also you realize that she was made an orphan at the hands of the Fallen. And when the Fallen or the Elixni came to the tower, she was one of the first to jump in and help. Like she had no hesitation. She was just like, oh, Misrax and his people need somewhere to stay. I'm all good with it. I'll help out. And then you realize it's because she's, I guess, like a refugee as well. So,
yeah, she is.
You know, no resentment there. She was just like, she looked past the fact that they were also Elixni and was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. And, oh my God, we have to talk about Amanda and Misrax at kick. No, like, it's this really stilted delivery where he says like kicking it back and it's in quotes in the subtitles.
And he's holding a cup of alcohol.
Because it's like just an animated thing of them two standing next to each other talking.
Swinging it wildly.
He's holding it like sideways just in his outstretched arm.
He's finished.
Yeah, but like, and then Amanda is holding nothing, and then at the end of that conversation, they go to cheers, and Amanda's just like got an empty hand, and he's got this.
Oh, she had a cup for me.
Okay, I had nothing.
For me, she picked a cup off the table and cheersed him.
For me, it was just like, here's my hand, just doing this motion, and Miss Rax like waving this goblet around. So goofy.
He's new to drinking.
But it was just like this very funny thing that reminded me of. You've seen the movie Bicentennial Man?
Yeah.
It reminded me of that. It's like a robot learning how to be a human. Where he's like, I'm trying this new thing called kicking it back. I drink the drink. I am human.
Yeah.
It's very good.
It's also really sweet because Amanda then goes in to talk about like, she's just like, man, Misrax is so cool. Like he's fearless, he kicks ass, and he's great at banter. And I was like, yes.
Yeah. I like there's like a hollow projector conversation with them at the end of the story this week, right?
Yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, Amanda talks directly to the Guardian about Misrax, where she's like, man, I'm really starting to enjoy his company. He's a lot of fun. Yeah. And I'm like,
how much? Maybe the double date with Devram and Mark and Misrax. I'm into it. He's got all sorts of like attachments that could make for a fun time.
Yeah, but they could also just be asexual.
They could do all sorts of things.
Like, I know through lore and like lines she's delivered over the course of her existence in the universe, people have definitely picked up that she's bisexual. Like they're like, oh yeah, okay. But like their relationship doesn't have to be intimate. Every relationship requires intimacy.
It's a good point.
It's a different type of relationship. That's why when I make the joke, I'm like, my new headcanon is Misrax and Amanda. So many people are like, ew. And I'm like, you can date without intimacy, right? Well, intimacy.
Yes.
There's other ways to be intimate. Like
kicking it back, for example.
Kicking it back.
I legitimately took a screenshot of that, like that with the subtitle just to be like, I need to remember this because it's very funny.
It's so cute. I loved it. I was like, I love this. I love this new plot line. Meanwhile, Mara's just in the background, fucking woo.
Just hitting the Wallalol spirit bomb.
Just doing her fucking creepy bitch shit in the background.
Actually, we got the like. So there's 3 of the battlegrounds this season, and we got the 3rd and final one this week, and it starts in the farm, and you just go and jump straight in the fucking portal next to where Mara should have been standing.
Get in the hole.
Yeah, get in the hole. But it's cool because then, like, while you're in the ascendant plane, you're like climbing up, and you go up this big like thing that shoots you up in the air, which puts you on an orbital prison station. It's like that's where like it finally clicked for me what we're using the ascendant plane to do, which is traverse.
We're going through the back door.
Well, yeah, we're like traversing space that we wouldn't be able to otherwise. So like we have just gone up in the air and just like landed on a ship that's up there because there's no way we could do that otherwise.
Yeah, well that was Mara's whole like, she's like, oh well, we don't want them to see us coming, so like let's go through the side door then.
Yeah, but like it was only this week when they kind of, one of the voice lines was like, wow, you got so high, how did you get up there? I'm like, oh, I get it now. And I felt like a real idiot.
I've always thought of the ascendant planes as like a parallel.
Yeah, but
like Mara skips in and out of.
Yeah, I think for me, the ascendant plane stuff that you do in the Dreaming City, it always felt like you go through one portal and that's the same way you come out again. So I never really got that sense of like, oh, it's like a mirror of the actual world.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're actually just
I always thought of it as like a parallel. Not necessarily a mirror, it's just an adjacent timeline that Mara and the Techians and obviously the Awoken can skip in and out of and back and forth.
Yeah.
It's just this one is dictated and controlled more by the darkness than our universe, and that's what she taps into more because she talks about tapping into the darkness and using it to beat the Witness early in the expansion. So I've always just, even before that, I always, with some of the Ascendant Plane and stuff conversations happening a couple of seasons ago, I was like, oh, it must just be like, it's less of a contained instance like the Throne World and more of like this thing runs adjacent with our reality and the Awoken just have access to it.
Yeah.
So when they were like, yeah, we're going to go up, I was like, oh, we're using the side door.
Yeah.
Surprise, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I'm very keen to see over the next, like, whatever it is, 2, probably 3 weeks of the seasonal storyline of, like, where this is going.
How else do we use the Ascendant Plane?
Yeah, or, like, what is the end goal of the season, essentially? Like, yeah, I'm not quite sure where this is going because I don't know.
I think we're just trying to protect the lost city and Earth at this point.
I don't know if they've ever really explicitly said anything other than that.
Like, to me, it feels like Devrin and Amanda and Mara and the Techians are the last the last defense, like for Earth itself. So their intent is keeping an eye on the Traveler through the helm and then also being on Earth, but then also defending Earth from any kind of push that comes from the Shadow Legion or the Hive, or because the Guardians were either wiped out in that huge fight or they're all fuck-ass, like we're the God Killer and we're all fuck-assing around on Neptune. So it's like, we're gone, so what does Earth have at that point except for the Vanguard? But the Vanguard's very intently honed in on the Traveler right now.
Busy,
yeah, like Zav and Ikora are very kind of focused on what the fuck is this pink triangle?
Yeah.
Why it do that?
Yeah, I know.
Why it undulate like that?
Yes.
Is it humming? I think it's humming.
Is it vibrating? Can we go try and touch it? Has anyone tried to just touch it?
It makes a sound like when you put baking paper over a comb.
Just sucks you into it like it did with those pyramid ships when the Witness went through it. Just like
I don't blame them for going through though, because it's like, what the fuck is on the other side?
Yeah.
Would it shred Guardians? Because he shredded Guardians.
I don't know.
What happened? What happened when Pink Triangle?
I am sure we'll find out.
Yeah.
But not yet. It's week 3.
Yeah.
We've got a whole year of storytelling.
And then I think we'll wrap up the week's story stuff because I did all that before I went and did Ron.
Yeah, what else is there? Like, there's the exotic mission.
There's the exotic mish, which I haven't done. Hee.
Have you not done it at all?
No.
Oh.
But I will. I'll try and do it tonight or tomorrow night or on the weekend. I'm sure there'll be people around. Before we loop back on the raid and some of the raid discussion. So, yeah, we talked about the kicking it back. And then my favorite Holo Projector conversation ever was Amanda and Crow, and Amanda being like, hey, so this isn't going to work out because at the end of the day, you are Aldrin and you killed Cade, and Cade meant a lot to me.
Right.
So I personally can't get over that. And he's like, no, but like, we can like trying to convince her, and she's like, no, so here's the thing, I thought I could separate the two, but I can't. And he's like, well, neither can I. And she goes, well, then it's not going to work right now. And I'm like, suck it. But just him being like, no, but what if? And she's like, no, sorry, like I cannot get over the fact you are Aldrin and you killed one of my best friends. Like, you killed Cade. I can't move on from that.
Yeah.
And him being like, oh, but I have. And she's like, yes, but I haven't. And I can't right now. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
That things seem to be heating up and she seemed optimistic. And then out of nowhere, she's like, I just can't detach you from Aldrin.
I wonder if that would have gone different had Crow not been given Aldrin's memories again. Because then at least there's some amount of separation you could put there of like, well, that literally was a different person. The person you are now did not exist then. That's kind of how Guardians work.
Was Amanda aware and not aware until recently, potentially?
Maybe. I think like once he was given all of Aldrin's memories, everyone kind of was clued in on that. I think it was like this big thing we were trying to prevent, and then it happened.
I think it was the Vanguard, and then anyone peripheral to the Vanguard in that season pretty much found out.
So I wonder if she could have got past it if that were the case, but also I also couldn't blame her. It's like every time I see you, I see him. Like regardless of you being a literal different person after this resurrection with a ghost, like you're gonna have that thought, and that's gonna be hard to get past.
And especially considering he and Aldrin are pretty much reunited at this point.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if that had not happened, would it be different? Like, if it was just there's Crow and there's Aldrin, and all they share is like they've occupied the same body.
I mean, the people that sheltered Crow very much tried their best to keep that he was Aldrin under wraps too. Like,
well, that's kind of what you're meant to do. Guardians
then,
have no knowledge of their previous life.
Yeah. But Spider and then Misrax and then I guess to a degree Zavala and stuff because they put him on the helm. So they knew and they just probably never told Amanda.
Yeah.
You know, because they probably knew Amanda would kick his fucking ass.
True. And I mean,
she got that bionic leg.
Fucking shot him in the chest.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. I just want to like loop that clip. It's like, so good.
So I went, get wrecked when I was listening to that. Like,
Sit down. Think about what you
30
did.
30 seconds after the Misrax interaction, and the next thing I listened to is, hey, it's not going to work out because you kind of killed my best friend in the whole wide world. So, like, Misrax hasn't killed any of your best friends that we know of.
No, Misrax is sick as hell. Get around him. But yeah, then there's, before we talk about the raid, the exotic mission.
Yes.
Avalon, I believe, is just what we're calling it. It's got some weird, like, name, but Avalon's in there.
Code.
Yeah, I kind of dig the way that you start the mission, which is, like, loading into this weird part of the EDZ. I don't know how we were supposed to find that other than me Googling, how do I start the secret mission? Because there were no clues in the game that this was even in there. And you just like find these 6 little glowing cubes, and then it opens a cave or something, and then you go through a Vex portal, and that's how you discover the mission. And then it's just like on the director, and you can just launch it every week, and it's a pinnacle source.
If the Twitter interactions are anything to go by, I think people loaded into the EDZ and then looked up and were like, "What the fuck is this big Vex like?"
They weren't even big.
Architecture
They
in
were
the
like
sky?
these tiny little square things.
No, there's a big portal
Oh,
above the EDZ.
yeah,
There's a massive portal.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if that showed up before or after because I only noticed it after I
Twitter
collected all the
dialogue-
things and gone in.
Yeah. The Twitter stuff I saw, because I had to do the same, I was like, what is this exotic mission everyone's talking about? And
Yes.
the Twitter dialogue was like, has anyone looked up in the EDZ lately?
Okay.
And then people being like, what the fuck? And then people starting to discover those cubes and being like, I
Yeah.
think it has something to do with these because these are new, right?
Yeah, yeah. So like once I noticed one of the cubes, it didn't take me long to find all 6 and hit them fast enough. But yeah, then we're like loading into the actual fucking Vex network apparently, and
But you meet a blue-eyed Vex before you do that.
you do meet a blue-eyed Vex.
I was so excited when I saw that Vex. I was like, I know who
I
this
know.
is. I know.
Yeah, so we get in there. There's like a whole. It like the first time through, it took me a little while because like I did it solo. I did it solo, but it was more just like trying to figure out the mechanics for the first time because there's like this. There's like these Vex conduits that appear throughout it, where there's a cube and then a diamond and then a triangle 3-dimensional structure, and you've got to hit them in certain sequences to unlock the thing to go to the next area, and that's kind of the repeating mechanic. And they are in like chains of symbols that start out three symbols that you have to hit for the first code, and then they're basically up to 5 long, and you've got to just remember that, hit them in order while managing a shitload of enemies that are spawning in. It's honestly crazy. But actually very fun in terms of like, you know, the exotic mission that you're going to run every week. Like this is the Presage or the whatever the other ones were called for this season, it seems.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're back in like, you remember Season of the Splicer, right? Jumping into the Vex network. We fucking just smashed my microphone. Oops.
Oops.
We saw it throughout the Lightfall campaign a little bit as well, but this is a fucking massive environment that we're loading into here. Some cool stuff.
Yeah, no, I just like the lore stuff.
Yeah, the lore is good because as we're going through, periodically, we see... How do I describe this? Essentially Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's basically like waist up, hovering in the air at certain points as you're moving through the environment. And it is none other than Asher fucking Mir, who straight uploaded himself into the Vex network when
he had
IO
a
got taken
deteriorating
away.
I can't remember what he had, but he had a condition or something.
Yeah.
Something was affecting his like abilities, and he was slowly deteriorating.
Then it was like Season of Arrivals when they worked out that like IO was going away. That's what he did, is he put himself in the Vex network.
Yeah, because he saw a pyramid at IO, so he kind of got the first glimpses of what was coming.
So yeah, we don't really talk to him. He just appears, and then as you get close to him, he kind of like dissipates.
Like he's guiding us.
Yes.
The blue-eyed harpy shows up somewhere else too in the Lightfall campaign, and I've forgotten where. But the first time I saw it, blue-eyed peaceful harpy, I was like,
yeah,
no,
I know what you mean. I can't remember when it was either.
They're not gonna, of all people. And then
they were always
when you go down to that hole and it's
back.
there, you go down that hole and it's there. You're just like, oh my fuck, it's my favorite warlock.
Yes.
Ashemir.
Yes, he's back. And the thing that he is here to bestow upon us is the second Vex pun named thing that I referenced earlier. It is a void glaive called Vexcalibur, as if Ashemir is a fucking lady in the lake distributing swords to people.
He's terminally online at this point.
Yeah.
Body and mind.
It's look, it's it's a fairly decent glaive. The trick with it, the reason it's an exotic, if you hold down the shield that a glaive gives you, it gives you a void over shield for like 10 seconds, and that's pretty neat. But the thing that it can do, at least as of this week, it's similar to Revision Zero, where you do these quests and you unlock more shit that the glaive can do.
And shit, yeah.
The thing that it can do, at least as of this week, is you hold down that shield and you can walk through certain walls in this exotic mission. And you can access certain things and certain secrets that you couldn't before. And it seems like we're going to get some other puzzles and mysteries within that giant environment. Because even this week, as I ran it, I could go through certain things and it was like fairly obvious what to do with that ability. But there were also a couple of spots where I'm like, I think I know what this is and how it works, but I don't think I have enough either information or abilities right now with the glaive to be able to actually do anything with it. And we got a quest, like an actual quest from the helm this week, assuming you've done the original exotic mission run, where it asks you to go back into the mission, and one of the objectives is to unlock one of the puzzle, or solve one of the puzzles in there, which is for example, going through one of these walls and opening a chest. That's the most basic one, and it happens pretty early in the run. But that just makes me think, well, next week surely we're going to get another thing to slot into it, and we can do the next more complex puzzle. I don't know how far this goes, but it's very cool that we've got this thing that lets us walk through walls a little bit in this one very specific place.
Yeah. I didn't know it did that, so that's super interesting to me.
Yeah, that's what I say. I don't think you can do that in the first week, because it's this... You put this mod in it, and then that, I think, is what lets you do it, and that's part of the quest for this week, the second week of it.
It's just making sure I was correct about my Ashemir lore. Yes, I was.
Yes, good. But yeah, it's yes. I would recommend doing it, mainly because that second week is very neat. But yeah, it's a long mission. I remember Presage runs would take us 45 minutes sometimes. It's like that. Yeah. It's a light dungeon.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
I'm
where...
going to do that after this.
That's where my current favorite combo of disorienting grenades and sunspots and throwing hammers is working really well, because I would just hit a blinding grenade, all the enemies would ignore me, so I could hit the symbols on that fucking Vex conduit, and then I would find somewhere to hide, and it got out of hand in a couple of spots. And then Xenophage, hey, this Vex Cyclops, bam, no, one shot right in the eye, get out of here. Don't want to do it.
That's what I brought in when I was trying to solo it. I was just Xeno. No. I was still getting my shit handed to me.
Yeah, you don't get anything different for doing it solo. I was just kind of vibing out. I just loaded it, and I was this is what I'm doing now. And I got as far as I got, which was finishing it, because I just got in the zone with it. But yeah, there's no need to do it solo at all. There might be a try for it, but again, I don't think it matters for anything.
Yeah. I still have to give it a go. I just got to level up a little bit more, and I should be good.
Yeah. All right, one very quick note before we talk about the Root of Nightmares. I've already gilded my dredgen, mainly because it seems like gilding seals right now is kind of broken. So the thing that we found in the first week, because someone did it by accident, is that if, at least for the dredgen seal, if you had it already and you looked at the gilding requirements, what you would actually notice is that you already had 8 out of 9 completed. That's what it would say. And all of these gold triumphs already ticked. So all it took was completing one other triumph. Don't get me wrong, I will play enough Gambit to have done it legitimately by the end of the season. But I already have my 8-time gilded dredgen. It feels a little wrong, but also I was always going to do it. Leave me alone.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll definitely take it. It means I don't have to stress about it. But yeah, it seems like there might be one or two other seals that also are that way. I think Glorious, one of the Crucible seals, is that way because there's people who have it now who basically swore that they would never be able to get it a while back. So, oh well.
Aw,
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm.
that's funny.
It's fine. You know, what they're meaningless. Just little symbol, little tag to put under your name.
Yeah. As much as I love the journey system, I am experiencing some fucking elitism when it comes to Guardian ranks.
I
And I'm just
mean,
like,
that shit was always there. It's just now we've got a different tool for people to be assholes with. Like, I've seen screenshots of text chat where people are like, oh, you're a level 3, get out of my game. It's like, those people should not be playing this kind of game. Or they could just, like, hang out with themselves and be in a shitty little part of the sandbox together.
go away.
Yeah. Report those people for being shitheads. Or just block them. And
It goes against like everything Bungie's doing, where they're
Yeah.
like commendation system, ranking system. You also like if you Sherp, isn't it also if you are higher level and you Sherpa new lights through stuff, you also get rewarded?
I think it's more that if you're a higher level, the commendations you give to lower level players earn you more points for your
Yeah.
commendation score. I think it's something like that. So it actually kind of matters that if you're a higher level, you're looking after lower level people. Like, that's the way it's supposed to work. But the problem is those sort of like elitist players are only looking at, well, I have to get this number higher so that I can unlock things. And they're just trying to find the path of least resistance to doing that. And it's just the same shitty behavior we've always seen. So yeah, I don't think the commendation system was ever going to solve that. It's just, like I said, it's a new tool for people to be shit with.
Yeah. It's just whatever people can latch onto.
Yeah.
You can get all these levels, but you can't get any bitches.
Speaking of not getting any, I fucked that up. Speaking of not getting any bitches,
Liver King,
Nezarek, Root of Nightmares.
our HGH short king himself.
Yes, we got that done on, it was Tuesday. So
Yeah.
the night like for us, we've said this before, weekly reset 3 a.m. on a Wednesday. We started the raid on Tuesday this week at like 7:30 p.m. We didn't finish until about 1:30 in the morning. So we were a full like hour and a half before reset cleared our checkpoint when we actually got it done. It took us like nearly 7 hours, I think that worked out to. Some of the API stuff rounded it down to 6 hours, but Braytech is telling me it's 6 hours 57. It fucking felt like it. But anyway, that was like, it was after contest mode. So raid dropped at the weekend. Contest mode was for 48 hours. A lot of people got in there. A lot of people got their clears. World first happened in like, was it 3 hours?
3 hours, 3 or 4 hours, yeah.
And before you say, hey, that's really fast, what the fuck, easy raid, there's been faster. And also it's like, it's a way more accessible raid system we have now with things like the legendary campaign getting you basically at raid level. You can do that shit on day one and then not stress about prepping, right? So like the barrier to entry is so low. They release it now on an actual work day so that Bungie can be there to support it better.
Also, not every raid needs to be long.
No, it's
Like,
actually better if it's
even
not,
after
in a
people
way.
even after people have gotten it down to half hours like we did with DSC. There's no reason for a raid to be long.
No.
There are some raids that still take the average, and I say average because this doesn't count for people who play Destiny as a living, the average fire team 3 or 4 hours to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the case for us because we are currently not doing them as frequently as we used to.
VOG, for example, still takes us a few hours to get it done.
Yeah.
You know, not every raid needs to be a fucking like King's Fall or fucking Vogue or Garden.
I did see some of the folks I follow on Twitter who like got their contest mode clear, and then because it didn't take them that long, they spent the rest of the weekend basically helping other people do it, and that is the other side of that coin, right?
Amaze Sherpa'd a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, I think
with his friends
Kinder Prime, I think, was doing the same thing. And there's a few others.
Yeah, the Red Jack Network were Sherpering a bunch of people through. Like, Steve Saylor has been pretty vocal in being like, hey, as someone with a disability, I can tell you right fucking now this shit is accessible and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
As someone with a chronic illness, I can't fucking sit for 6 hours to do a raid.
Nope.
If it takes me 35 minutes, I'm happy. I got my run in. Like, for a first time raid, only taking 3 to 6 hours, I'm good with that. Like, I can't do 12-hour days anymore. Like, my body just will not let me do those days anymore.
Yep. And I mean, like,
I gotta pee every 30 minutes, as you guys know.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, our run took us almost 7 hours. Our first King's Fall was like 8.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and we're a group who like play the game a decent amount, and some of us are, you know, pushing into the pinnacle cap now in week 3. And that still took us nearly 7 hours because like there's a lot of mechanics to work out. There's also like how your particular group of 6 is going to attack those mechanics and trying to work out the best way to do it. And you know, like we switched roles with people at a couple of points throughout the run because it was like, hey, you're running, but it actually seemed like I did this. You know, the first encounter, I was like, hey, I've got decent mobility and I am built around moving and killing a lot. I'll run the orb aspect of the raid. And then I was like, actually, no, it's better if all I do is add clear and dump orbs of power everywhere so that people who need that shit have access to it. And so, yeah, it takes a bit of time. So, yes, World's First was like 3 hours, and honestly, congrats to that team. That team, I'm forgetting their name, but they have been like in that kind of top tier for a long time, and I think this is their first World's First.
They're also all super casual Destiny players. Like the joke, they were like, oh yeah, so what are you thinking of the lore? And then they were like, we don't watch the cutscenes. And they're like, oh, in the raid? And they're like, no, ever. We skip the cutscenes.
Just want to
like, it was really refreshing to see a group of mostly the average Joe winning a raid race for once.
Yeah.
Like that was really refreshing. Much to the fucking chagrin of some of these full-time raid races. Some of them were definitely salty about it and let Twitter know. And all I have to say is, see you, Stinky. Can't win them all.
Hold this L. I believe it's yours.
Be excited for other people to experience what you've gotten to experience a bunch.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, like if the first thing you reach for is a complaint that the raid must be too easy, then it's like, well,
it's
why didn't you win then? If it's
we
too easy,
cheesed most of it. I'm like, okay. Once again, see you, Stinky.
Yeah.
Like I hear them talking. I have the displeasure of some of those people's clips coming up on my timeline, and it's so immature. But when they talk, all I hear is. I'm just like, I don't.
Anyway, let's turn this back around to a more positive bent. So the way that this environment works, if you remember back to the campaign, the Traveler shoots that big beam of light into a pyramid ship, and you see a tree growing and all this stuff. The raid is set inside said pyramid ship.
And the witness is like, don't mind if I do.
Yeah, but
skedaddles out.
But we are the whole raid is inside that one pyramid ship that the Traveler blasted a hole inside of, and it's sick as hell in there. I've got to tell you.
Yes, I have a question. Make me wonder: did Traveler intentionally let Nezarec out? Then
I don't know. That is something
I was thinking
I've been
that
thinking
the whole
about.
raid. I was like, so did the Traveler know old mate was in here?
But what? But why? Why would you?
Harpy?
Why would you do that? But yeah, and so the main mechanic that occurs throughout the entire raid is this idea of like, I mean, orbs, but basically seeds and growing. I don't know how to describe it. You're essentially like there's an orb which is representing a seed in the way that it's kind of explained, and
Coalescence.
you're growing the seed into a plant that connects multiple plates. And you start out and all you're dealing with is light orbs, and then later on dark orbs are introduced, and it's very much about like the interplay between light and dark and having to cross over, and there's all these like references, visual references to helixes, and you know, in the second encounter we're like zigzagging light and dark, mixing the two together, which is very much like the story of Lightfall and Destiny at the moment, is like these two supposedly opposite forces are now like actually a lot more closely aligned.
I like that it kind of plays off that, well, in my head, it plays off that concept of like the greater, you know, without the light, you can't see the shadow. So without the good in the world, you can't pick out the bad and get rid of the bad, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that we need the light to grow those seeds is a really interesting kind of concept to me.
Yeah, I also appreciate that in a couple of raids now. I think Vow of the Disciple is probably the biggest one for this. The raid boss was treated like a reveal, like this huge moment of like, yo, what the fuck is this? Who is this? And like DSC was like this, where it's like, oh, it's Tannic. It's Tannics again. But in this,
with the legs.
In this one, like basically as soon as you load in, it's like, oh, this is Nezarec. Nezarec is talking to us. We are going to kill Nezarec at the end of this raid, and it's just like obvious about it.
It reminds me of how like the old slug monster from Monsters Inc. is just there. Surprise! It's me. Like,
not Mike Wazowski.
Imagine Nezarec lines in Slughorn.
I wish I remembered any Nezarec lines right now, and I'd try and do them.
So funny. It's me, Nezarec, God of Pain. End of Pain, or whatever it called himself.
Final God of Pain, I believe.
Fucking okay, buddy, go watch more Naruto.
Yeah. But also, like, speaking of differences to previous raids, like, the jumping puzzle actually has mechanics to it that aren't just platforming.
Yeah.
And it's more of the, like, move the seed, get the thing, and you're going light to dark to light to dark. And I think that's where the concept of the refuge is introduced.
Because
you go from a light orb to a dark one, and that creates a refuge. Basically, gives you a buff from a deep, like prevents you from dying when this thing happens every 45 seconds. And that refuge lasts for like 14 seconds. So you've got to like time it right. And then if you go from dark to light, you get the same thing later on.
I don't know how many other people noticed it, but I didn't want to mention it in the raid because then I knew that would trigger certain people, or like some people, to want to go find more. But I noticed that as we go through the raid, there are bits of Nezarec through the raid. Like, near each encounter, like chunks of Nezarec's
form.
Yeah. So by the
like
time we hit
off, or like just peeking in,
like they're in the glass. You know how fucking the witness loves taxidermy, apparently.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so they're bits of Nezarec. I didn't connect the dots until the final encounter. I was like, oh, those chunky bits that I've been staring at, and people have been like, where's Meckii? That was Nezarec. Okay. Yeah. Until I saw like his final form with the wings. Yes. His fucking Sephiroth final form.
Yeah.
And I found it really interesting that the pieces were pretty much all together, and then we go to that bit, and that thing in the middle, the radial, it looks like a radial mast. Mm-hmm. That thing that's jutting out. The thing in the center it's beating like a heart.
Yeah.
The entire time, and then it sends out a massive pulse. I just thought it was really interesting. I was like, are we accidentally putting him back together?
I don't know.
By coalescing the light and the dark, are we like accidentally pulling his pieces back together?
I don't know. I
thought they were in the tea. Yeah. How'd they get out of the tea?
Like a lot of the stuff at the moment in Destiny, I need to go and consume a bunch of lore. I've been holding off until kind of now just for fear of like spoiling myself on stuff that I haven't done yet. But I feel like I'm at the point now where like I've kind of done all the big stuff, and I want to go and watch a video where somebody's read all of the like armor lore and weapon lore from the raid and that.
I thought we put him in the Bubba's jam jars, the recycled, washed out jam jars. I thought we put him in them.
Well, the problem is we collected them all. That was the problem. We shouldn't have done that. You put them back together. But yeah, like visually, this raid is stunning. Like,
it's so pretty.
It's unlike anything I've seen before in the game. Like, obviously, there's a lot of darkness architecture within the raid, but there's like this.
Oh, we're dealing with like silver wings, architecture.
Tree of silver wings and all that. But all of the like weird tendrils and plant references and.
Once again, it's the coalescence of dark and light. Like this tree is growing in this pyramid, and the pyramid is the symbology of the darkness.
Yeah.
And it's growing throughout.
True.
And like we're in the roots and it's thriving, and there are different parts where there are flowers, like in the Black Garden. When you first enter the raid, there's flowers like the Black Garden everywhere, which I thought was really pretty. As you guys heard.
Yes.
Pretty!
Yes. One thing that I've seen a few people have this idea that like, oh, the planet's encounter doesn't fit. I disagree. Because it is
where
still
the witness was in the final cutscene.
Yeah. I put that together as soon as we walked in the room.
You heard me go off when I first saw it.
Yeah. So before I get to that, like the whole raid, like we said, is kind of about like light and dark, the interplay, weaving them together. That encounter is still that. It's just applied differently. You're still like, you're mixing, you're like, you've got a light side and a dark side. You're moving things across. Yeah, it's not as obvious as like orbs and auras and refuges, but like, I think it still fits. I think also that room is incredibly flavorful for the reasons that we mentioned about that final cutscene from the Witch Queen. That scene where the witness first appears out of that weird goo, and you see all the planets in front of it, and we're in that room because this is the ship. This is the witness's ship that the Traveler blasted a hole in. The reason there was a statue of Nezarec in it is because Nezarec was in it. Like, I want to go and like watch that final cutscene again just to like
see what's in the background that you can catch, or like in the
that, but also to like look more closely at the planets themselves, because I think I just glanced off it as like, oh, that must just be the solar system. But when you go into that room in the raid encounter, there's like fucking 15 planets hovering in the sky. That's more than we have in the solar system, my guy.
There's some identifiable planets, and then there's some that you're just like, what?
That's just an orb.
What, you green orb, not Earth?
Yeah, but just such. I also want to. I think we had a lot of chatter throughout that raid, and I missed a lot of the lore and the dialogue that was coming through, just because of like when it cut in and like it was kind of quiet, so I missed parts of it. And the same goes for like the music of the raid. I don't feel like I really caught much of it. So I want to. I think at some point I want to try and get a run together for Root where we kind of take the time and like soak that stuff in, but also I just want to go and like find a video with all the dialogue and lore in it and just kind of like make sure I get that, because I definitely know I missed some shit. But yeah, then boss fight, Nezarec.
Not as intimidating as physically and visually as I expected.
Like when
I expected another Rolk, like.
So like during the Lightfall campaign, like some of those tormentors are a little bit bigger, and they are called, for example, Imprint of Nezarec. And then when you fucking see Nezarec, it looks like
he's just a big tormentor with a slightly different head and
you've got
wings.
the same like crit spots on the shoulders and the chest. He's a bit bigger. He's got some wings, and he's got this big fucking weird scythe. I think that's a very cool boss fight. You've got a
Yeah,
couple of people
it's
trying to
super
build.
neat.
You've got a couple of people trying to build the chains of the orbs. There's like a white mechanic, which means you have to go and create the refuge to block that thing from killing you. It's a classic. Everybody stand in the place and do the damage for DPS. We went with Well of Radiance, Divinity, and 5 Thunderlords, and it worked a treat.
It worked.
I think if we got everything to line up, that's a 2 damage phase boss fight. Even on that first run, we were putting out the right numbers for that. Yeah, there was a little bit of like cheesing him to like not during the damage phase, but just to like stun him.
We stun locked his
to stun lock him just during the
wipe.
the mid phase where we're like building those chains. Honestly, just because we were fucking 6 hours deep and it made it more manageable. That one I feel like we were 90% of the way to doing it legitimate. And
by the end of it, we were pretty much doing it legitimate. Like we were seeking refuge and letting him reset.
The refuge we would have to do, but like locking him out of his animation, we were still doing that the whole way through. So if you take that out and he's just roaming and you're trying to like follow him and stun him, that makes it a little tougher. But I was just on orb generation duty.
I was shitting out orbs too.
This raid actually made me go digging into the Destiny 2 API for the first time because I know I generated a lot of orbs, but raids don't seem to be an activity where the stats include orbs generated. I can get stats about like all-time orb generation, and I think I'm in like 60-something thousand. But I cannot get for a raid activity how many orbs generated. And I think it's not all activities that actually track that on a per instance basis. Because I know some like strikes or battlegrounds or whatever it is, like on the post-game report, in-game, you will get orbs generated as like a stat that it shows you. So like it is tracking it for some things. But what I can tell you is I killed like over nearly 2,500 enemies, and that was ahead of anyone by like hundreds, because all I was doing was blinding grenades and throwing hammers and setting everything on fire and running away. Of that 2,500, just over 1,000 were melee kills, to give you an idea of just how fucking ruthless I am with that hammer. It's very satisfying. Also because I realized that like I still have yet to work out why this is the case, but when I get like an actual throwing hammer kill, I think one of the aspects or fragments or something means that my unpowered melees basically do the same thing. So I'm like, or basically do the same amount of damage. They don't get the health restoration happening, but I was like, okay, throwing hammer and then just like punch, punch, punch. And they were just like one hit KOs on just like all of those Cabal enemies in the boss fight. And it was very satisfying to just like throw a grenade, they're all on fire, and then it was like whack, whack, just put them down.
I just took a quick peek to see what I was running, and it was like maxed out on orb mods. And then I had fusion, the click melee, sun braces, and then I had my resilience maxed out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much, I was just looping grenades and melee because I get the double nades.
Yeah.
And then with the fusion grenades, it was feeding back into my melee. And then I was just, that's how I was, by the end, that's how I was clearing out all those enemies, as I was taking the side you weren't on. Yeah, just like, whoa.
That's the thing that's kind of broken about that Titan throwing hammer, is that one of the solar fragments is whenever you use a charged melee, you generate, or maybe it's one of the new mods, whenever you use a charged melee, you generate orbs of power. I think it is a mod because I've got 2 of them. But of course, if I pick that throwing hammer up, I can just do it again. So if you watch that like kill feed, it's just like chillybin generated an orb of power, and it's just like constantly going. And I feel like I'm helping, but also it's very fun, especially when you use the disorienting grenades and the enemies can't do anything. You're just like bonk, bonk. And I'm and like, because I pick up the throwing hammer, and as long as it hits something, it triggers health restoration. So I also died the least out of anyone.
Yeah.
I still died 69 times. Nice.
Nice.
But that's just because I am constantly keeping myself healing. It's very fun. I'm enjoying it a lot. I have not used Strand much at all because it can't beat this.
Yeah, I definitely, with the fusion grenade build I'm running, or like the solar build I'm running, I definitely want to try and spec into support more. So the healing grenades and the shielding grenades, because then if I can run that loop, I can just constantly have healing grenades and an empowering rift and then a well.
Yeah.
And almost go back to like D1 support warlock days.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So in terms of like us finishing that boss fight, we got real close a couple times. I think it
fucked by the mandatory wipe mechanic where it was just like, yeah, he's dead, but also we're gonna wipe.
Well, like, it was also very like neat. It was the timing of completing those 2 chains. Then there's like a few seconds before it activates the beam that kind of like stops that from happening, and we lost it to a few times to that of just like we thought we got it in time, and it was just like all of those things playing out. It didn't line up. But there was one, I think it might have been our second to last attempt before we actually got it, where we were standing there, we jumped up to do damage, like a couple of people died straight away, and so we're just doing whatever we could, and I had run out of heavy, and so I ended up, I think I just like got knocked off by Nezarek, and I was like on the ground off the plate we were standing on, like next to his feet, throwing a hammer at his shins. And then at one point, I like turned in a way that I didn't mean to, which meant I threw the hammer and it went up into the sky, missed him, and went off the fucking map. And so all I had left was unpowered melee into his ankles.
Just punching his ankles?
Yeah, like legitimately. And then it got down to like...
at his Achilles?
Yeah, but with my fist. And it got, like, we ended up getting him, like, to, like, sliver of health. A pixel dick, if you will. And I reckon if we had 3 more seconds, we would have beat him.
Yeah.
And we wiped, because there's, like, a limited amount of time to do that final stand damage.
But I love that, like, that didn't defeat us. That happened to us, and we went, oh, we are so close.
The thing is, like, we were already close. We knew we had the rotation down. We knew we were able to put out enough damage. It was just getting all of the timing,
lining it all
just getting
up,
the timing to line up on like completing those chains, getting the refuges, doing it a couple times, which, you know, it's classic first attempt at a raid stuff. But yeah, just some very funny moments like that of, fuck, what else? What are we gonna do now? And honestly, I'm surprised we kept going until like 1:30 in the morning. I wouldn't have blamed anyone if they were like, we've still got a week to earn the jacket. Let's not push this. But I'm glad we did. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. jacket.
Yes,
jacket.
I have already ordered it.
I gotta save for mine a little bit.
I thankfully had a bit of money saved already, so I was like, yeah, he is like, I think it ended up being nearly $300 when you factor in like shipping and exchange rates and all that shit.
I mathed mine out to about 320 just to be safe. I was like, okay, so it's 150 USD. That's at least 200.
It's
then
like,
I'm probably looking at like
40 US shipping,
50, 60 US shipping. So I cashed mine out to 320 and I was like, okay.
Yeah. It's, I mean, it is what it is, but yeah, having got a couple of those jackets already, like they are well made.
They're very nice.
They're very nice.
Can't see it cool on my screen, but
I can see the sleeve of it.
My DSC jacket's in the background forever.
But yeah, in addition to a very sick jacket, there's a very sick pin that you can get, similar to Valve Disciple. Nice. Also ordered that. But in terms of in-game stuff, some of the hang on, some of the armor for this raid is beyond cursed. Specifically, the Warlock chest piece.
as soon as I dropped that, I was like, I'm putting the bitch on.
You've got
and
like
it took
two,
a couple of
it's got
it
extra
took a couple
arms.
of encounters. Someone like 2 encounters after I changed it was like, Meckii, why do you have so many fucking arms?
That was me, and the reason it took me so long is because I noticed it, I think, just before we did the second encounter, but it was in a moment where like I was trying to get the group to focus a bit, and I was like, I can't bring this up because it's going to counter the thing I'm trying to do right now.
The thing is, though, is when I dropped it and put it on, I started doing my evil giggle, and
Right.
one of our teammates was like, "Meckii, what are you up to?" And I just stood in the middle of everyone, like nothing happened. I was just standing there
to try and paint you a word picture.
Just like, woohoo!
Yeah, to try and paint you a word picture. It's like a general kind of chess piece, but like I think it's just on one side. There's like 2 extra arms coming off the back of it. Like
yeah, so
small arms.
No, they're about the same size. It's just they only
like
have 4 fingers.
The size of your actual arm in game.
And one of them is holding like a potion, like a bulb, a potion bottle.
Yeah.
And the other arm is holding like a dagger.
Yeah.
And that looks pretty neat.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite side to those arms, it looks like a really gross, like Elizabethan ruff, but it's made of like skin.
Yeah.
And then like this weird color changing butt flap. It's disgusting and I love it.
Yeah.
And the toe, like I got the feet as well, and the feet have funny little toes on them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't wait for the nasty as fuck helmet.
Yeah, I haven't done it, but I want to go and look at just in the collections tab in game, like all of the armor sets, just to see what they kind of look like, because it doesn't bode well. The Titan ones are like kind of somewhere in the middle, where like it looks like Titan shit, but it's like got weird curvy bits to it.
I think I said to you, I was like, look, I look like you should be on the cover of a Sleep Token song.
Legitimately.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah. So like the raid weapons too are very cool.
Kind of nasty.
I got the kinetic auto rifle, which just it has a really good feel to it, but I also got one that it dropped with Demolitionist and what's the Adrenaline Junkie, which is basically like a grenade focused loop within one gun, where it's I think it's Adrenaline Junkie is like getting kills with a grenade or this gun make it do more damage, and then Demolitionist is like kills with it refund grenade energy, and using your grenade reloads the gun. So you can
create like a grenade reload loop.
Could do. Even just running that gun on its own, it's kind of fun. It would probably be good running Strand because your grapple is a grenade.
Sure, I didn't think of that.
It's a Strand weapon, and it's got like all the raid weapons seem to have this perk, which is like if you use multiple weapons from that set, they do more damage. There's like the origin perk is kind of weird that way, but. Yeah, I also dropped the motherfucking raid exotic. I haven't actually used it yet.
RNG finally let off.
Fucking tell me about it, dude. The amount of times I have not got a first time exotic and others have. Yeah, it looks cool as shit. I haven't actually used it at all yet, but it sounds like it fires both stasis and solar, so I have no idea what I'm going to use that for. But I've seen people tweeting about it that it's very good, so I'm gonna fuck around with that a little bit pretty soon.
Yeah.
Like I like getting that to drop. That's what almost made me tear up after like 7 hours of raiding. I was like, fuck, finally. Just like the relief of like we've finished the raid, but also like, cool, I actually finally get one of these things.
I just love the evil cackle that came out of you when you saw it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a bit.
It was great. I was like, do you get it? And then it popped up on the side and I was like, yeah, our boy.
Me.
Because you and I, of our entire fire team, we have the worst RNG when it comes to exotic drops. So
still have yet to get
fact you finally got yours.
Eyes of Tomorrow, Thousand Voices, Mythoclast, Touch of Malice.
Touch of Malice.
None of those.
Yeah,
it's annoying.
Touch of Malice, and I've got Eyes and Mytho, so I just need those other ones as well.
Soon, maybe.
And I had the shittiest luck in the sunsetted raids as well. I just
I think
never dropped
I think
those.
The difference with those is like we were running them so often that everybody just eventually got them. And now it's to the point where you can get them through Spoils of Conquest.
Yeah. But it was
So-
just like everyone had them and then they got sunsetted and I was like, well, I guess none for Meckii.
A little
None
bit.
for me.
Yes.
I'll just go fuck myself then.
Any other thoughts or things that I've missed from the raid?
No. Me being pigeon brained, I was just like, hey, they're pretty.
It is
It's
pretty.
just shiny and pretty. I like the room with the planets.
Yes. It is pretty cool.
I loved how vibrant that room was too. Like
Yeah.
the way the colors played
The whole
off
thing
each
was super colorful.
Actually, the planet room is in a similar color scheme to my room. Oopie.
Oh well. Just get some planets hung off the ceiling.
Probably why I liked the color scheme.
Maybe.
You can get light up planet sets. I could now that I don't work from home anymore, I can probably get rid of that monitor and just have a line of those light up planets.
Oh yeah.
Oh, one of those little mobiles.
Where they spin around each other. Yes.
Yeah.
You should do that. That'd be sick.
I love space.
Yes. Well, in that case, I think we're done. I think that's a wrap on this here episode of Erico Blueberry. Let's see. I want to say we'll be back next week because I'm now at a point where I don't have like a bunch of busy weekends back to back to back. And that's what's kind of been getting me the last few weeks. But then again,
I'm good.
We got lives to live.
I'm good till April.
Sick. I mean,
end of April.
I was gonna say April's only like 2 weeks away, but end of April is different.
End of April, because that's when for me gig season starts.
True.
Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays for most of May are live shows.
Yeah, actually, that said, next Friday is Not Fest down here in Melbourne. So I'm gonna go see Slipknot for the first time. That's gonna be sick.
It's so good.
I mean, I'm gonna see Spirit Box for the first time too, but like, I feel like Spirit Box is a band that I'll get multiple opportunities to see. Slipknot, not so much.
I think if you get a chance, if they don't conflict with anyone, definitely check out Bad Omens, just because the vocalist is like his voice live is also very good. If you're not super, I think even if you're not super into their music, I definitely recommend if you ever get a chance to see Bad Omens, and it's not going to be too expensive, that you do, because the showmanship and the talent is like there.
Yeah, very cool.
Even if you don't like them, you can't deny they don't put on a good show.
Okay, I appreciate that.
One of those kinds of bands.
That was like when I saw Devin Townsend, because I went to see Periphery, who opened for him. I was like, hey man, like I don't listen to that much Devin Townsend, but that man puts on a fucking show and a half.
Well, it's me. I never really listened to North Lane or Thornhill, but they've opened for bands that I like Architects and shit. So I was like, oh, I actually really like these bands.
Yeah.
They've shown up in my discovers and I've just never really paid attention.
Yeah.
Music is great.
Music is great.
I love Destiny. I love music.
Yes. And on that note, we're gonna get up on out of here. I might go and get a snack and then play some more Destiny.
Some pizza.
We've got pinnacles to get. But yeah, we'll see you next time. Remember to tell a friend about the Erico Blueberry. Tell them about Destiny too. It's a hell of a game. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Bye.
Farewell. Farewell, sweet guardian.
Farewell, sweet pig.